This is the Aftermarket Radio Network.
Welcome to another episode of Business by the Numbers. I'm your host, Hunt Demers, CPA with Parmelis & Associates. Do I have enough money to retire? Isn't that the question that we say to ourselves all the time, especially when you have a problem customer or employee or a combination of two? The hard reality is that most people ask this question, but few actually answer this. How much do you need to retire, and what does that look like? Exactly what we're going to talk about this week. Before we get into that, I just want to stop and say thank you to you and the rest of the dedicated listeners. Remember, if you want a question answered on here, just have a question for me, or want to be a guest in a future episode, shoot me an email at podcast@parmelis.com. Want to talk to us about accounting and tax services for your repair shop? Shoot us a text at 301-307-5413. And lastly, we cannot forget our dedicated sponsors, NAPA TRACS and Promotive, for being such loyal supporters of the show. Hey, did you know NAPA TRACS is on-site training plus 6 days a week support? It all starts when a local representative meets with you to learn about your business and how you run it. After all, it's your shop, so it's your choice. Let us prove to you that TRACS is the single best shop management system in the business. Visit them online at napatracs.com. That's NAPATRACS.com. If you're looking for a full-service staffing solution that does everything from sourcing, qualifying, creating job descriptions, scheduling interviews, to negotiating job offers, Promotive is your answer. Visit them online at gopromotive.com. The purpose of this week's episode is to tell you how to start asking the what questions to the right people, I guess I would say, but not actually to give you an actual amount. Before I get into this, I am going to give you the tools on how to calculate this yourself. I am going to give you kind of the pitfalls and perils of why people don't get this right or don't look at this at all. But if you're looking for a number of like, I need 2 million, I need 1.5 million, this is not the episode for you, and there's going to be no episodes out there for you. The reason of why is because there are so many variables to this that I'm not going to be able to give you a number, even maybe a set method on how to do this, because all of you guys have a different retirement. How old are you? What do you like to do? What do you like to spend your money on, or do you like to spend your money? Are you a risk taker, or are you risk adverse? Do you have debt? You debt free? You have kids? You have grandkids? You have kids or grandkids that you want to leave some money to? Do you have a saleable business, or do you not at all? This is probably 7 or 8 of the first ones that I thought in maybe the span of 10 seconds while writing this episode. But there are so many more variables to this equation than you could ever imagine. But again, why? Because this is your retirement. You could be whatever you want, wherever you want, whoever you want, and doing whatever you want. Now, the sad reality is that a lot of people's retirement is more or less metered by how much money that they have. But for most people, it's not. Okay, Hunt, I get all the BS, and this is all subjective. It all depends on this. Then is this all a waste of time? If you want to retire, I'm going to tell that most of you guys can retire right now. Anyone is listening to this. If you are complaining, if you don't like running your business, if you're sick of this and you want to hang it up, the good news is that you probably can. I shouldn't say probably. You definitely can. Is that going to be in the United States? Maybe, but probably not. If we're going to go with everyone listening here. Everyone listening here can retire right now, but most of you cannot retire in the United States. Is your lifestyle going to be the same? For some of you, again, yes. For some of you that, have a high lifestyle and you're pretty young, then no, you can't retire right now and have the same lifestyle. What does all this mean? It means that you need to figure out what your retirement looks like, where that is, and what it's going to cost you. And this is going to give you your number. Because the idea behind this, it kind of gets to the root of this question of how much money do I need to retire, all comes down on the timing. If you don't need any money to retire, then why would you ever wait to retire? Think about that. Think about if living was free. If you didn't have any expenses that you need to pay for, would you keep on working? And that's such an extreme example because it's not reality. The world isn't free. Life isn't free on there. But if you take out kind of the expenses and the necessities that you need to spend your money on, then you also take out the necessity of having any sort of income coming in. If you live on an abandoned island, there's no reason for you to go get a remote job. You have no way to spend that money, so why would you want to make any money? Retirement's the same idea. Hey, you want to maximize your inflows so that it matches your outflows. To a large extent, you don't really need more. And, also to the other side of it, if it's not enough, then that doesn't work either. The tricky part about this is there are so many variables because we have a big element here that is probably something we're not going to talk about this much on here because it adds so much complexity, but time. If you do not plan to live past next week, then every single person listening to this episode can afford to retire exactly how they want to, wherever they are, and do whatever the heck they want. You only have to live for another week, go to get a couple credit cards, it's going to work out. Try to do the same thing for 40 years on this, you're probably not going to get so lucky. More or less, the first lesson that we're going to learn here is your age is going to probably be the biggest thing that dictates your retirement in a realistic standpoint. We can go down through the, psychology of this and all of it, and age shouldn't really make a big difference, but let's be real, it does. You're going to be spending more money at your younger years than you are your older. If you have children, up until the point of when they go to college and maybe get married on this, they are going to be spending a lot of your money. If you want to retire when your kids are 10, that's going to be a lot more expensive for you than when your kids are 30, assuming that you're going to pay for them to grow up and things like that. Also, naturally, again, with your own interest or your own health, do you think that you're going to be able to spend more money when you're active and 50 or when you're maybe bedridden and 95? Age is something that goes into all of this. How we age, health, are so many different things that, again, we're not going to get into this episode. Before we get into how to get your number, we figure out, all right, there has to be some sort of rule of thumb here. Even if it's not going to get me to the exact point that I want to get to, there has to be kind of a uniform, agreed upon method to do this. I have to plug a book on here I've talked about before. I've recommended it to a ton of you. It is called Die with Zero. Die as in D-I-E with zero. The whole idea here is, as the title kind of alludes to, is everyone's goal should be to die with zero. I'm not going to talk a ton about this book because it's one of my favorite books, if not my favorite book. And if you are thinking about retirement and you haven't read this book, I almost want to tell you you're not allowed to listen to the rest of this episode because so much of this was kind of, gleaned from them and kind of runs parallel to it. But again, listen to the rest of this, then hang up and go read Die with Zero or listen to it. It's that good. The whole idea with Die with Zero kind of comes down to a very basic principle, but exactly one that we were just talking about. We are working to live, not living to work. And now if you have a different philosophy on this, then hey, this episode's going to be worthless and so is that book. If you love to work, if working is your purpose of being on this earth, then hey, don't let me tell you any differently. Keep on keeping on. For the rest of us, a job or a business or income is a means to the end. It's a necessary evil. Well, let's be real. It's an expensive place to live. We need to make money. The idea of Die with Zero is that we are exchanging our time for money. The book was kind of more written from a non-self-employed point of view because, you can get passive investments. You can get passive income. But again, even if you're self-employed and you don't have to go there every day, I think a lot of you would argue it's not as passive as something like a bank account or CD. But the whole idea is, let's say that you make $100,000 a year and you die and you have $200,000 left in the bank. You shouldn't look at this and say, great, I was able to enjoy my retirement and still had some money left over. No, essentially the author's argument on there is if you died with $200,000 in the bank and you made $100,000 a year, you worked for 2 more years that you needed to and wasted, time that you could have been enjoying yourself or not working, and instead you chose to work. His argument, which, I tend to agree with in some aspect of, is everyone's goal should be to die with zero. Why are we going to leave any money to anyone else? Because essentially that means that we wasted our time, and time is our most valuable resource. That aspect I can get behind. I don't think anyone can give me an argument to the other side of this. The tricky part about this is that most people are terrified by this idea. We have ingrained into our kind of psyche is everyone is terrified to retire and run out of money. I know some of you have already said, Hunt, if I die with zero, I'm just as close to dying with money as I am to dying broke or dying in debt. Realistically, towards the end of this, you have a little bit more control over that stuff. And even more realistically is the fear of running out of money is one of the most irrational fears. Because from a statistical standpoint, almost 90% of people that retire end up dying with more money or higher net worth than when they retired. Let me say that again. 90% of people, and this is for people that have saved for retirement. If you haven't put any money away and you're just banking on Social Security, you're not one of these people. You're not even in statistic. But people that have said, hey, I've saved for my retirement, and I'm not sure if I'm okay or not. I think I might run out of money. What they find is that 90% of those people not only don't run out of money, but actually have a higher net worth when they die than when they retired and stopped working. What does that mean? Let's say they retired at the age 60 or age 70. It doesn't matter. And they were worth $1 million. It means that when they die, they were worth more than $1 million, meaning that they did not even spend enough money to outpace their earnings or other investments on there. Is that, again, a successful mission? Now, if we go with die with zero, we could go with the author's philosophy on this. They say, no, absolutely not. Your net worth actually went up there. Realistically, if you're looking at this, you probably should have retired 5 to 6 years earlier. I get it. No one wants to die with zero. No one wants to be able to or have to go back and borrow money from their kids or, God forbid, go back to a job. But when you're really looking at this, dying with zero is a philosophy. Again, not a literal sense. Does he really mean that you should die with zero? Yeah, truly. And if you read his book, this guy is living what he writes. Now, he is very wealthy. I will put that out there. This guy has a lot of money. So it's a lot easier to die with zero when you start with a ton of it, right? And you get to have a pretty fun retirement. But again, the whole idea behind this is we are exchanging our time for money. At some point, we want to be exchanging our money for time. The thing is we don't know when that crossover should happen. And most people do that crossover much too late, end up staying at a job, a career, a business, a shop that they don't like, a life that they don't like, all with the end in mind of, I have to be here in order for me to have the retirement that I want. Wouldn't you want to know if you've already hit that point and you can walk away? This is the whole idea behind it. Before we get into actually calculating our number, I'm going to give you again a couple little words of caution on here. When we're going down through this, this is not a die with zero number. This number is going to maintain, and again, is going to be a conservative estimate. And I'm not trying to win you guys over yet and go straight to die with zero. You guys are going to read the book on this, but I'm going to get you halfway there. This is something that I feel that everyone can understand. There is not a single topic on here that I'm going to talk about in the podcast that I don't think that you guys are qualified to deal with. Every single episode that I talk about is for an everyday person. This is not for a financial professional. This is not for a financial planner. This is something that if you are comfortable in numbers, if you are comfortable in basic finance and stuff like this, you can do this by yourself, but you need to get educated and you need to do some work on this. On the same flip side though, if you're not comfortable with this, is a major decision, and you should not do this alone. If you don't want to, if you feel confident in this and say, Hunt, call me crazy, but I think I got this stuff figured out, I would tend to agree with you. This is not one of those advanced topics that I don't think that you guys can do. If you're not comfortable with this one, don't chance this. This is too big to chance. Talk to your accountant, talk to your financial advisor, talk to someone on this. Again, this is something that you want to do with eyes opened, every single piece of information that you can possibly get your hands on. How do we get our number? More or less what we're doing here is we're building a budget, just like we've talked about time and time again for your shop, but for your personal finances. And just like our business, we're going to build the business that we want based on the desired net profit. Remember, we don't care about what the sales are. If it's going to give us that 100, 200 grand in net, then so be it. What do the sales end up if I want to have that? We're going to build this with the end in mind. In this case, on this, we are going to build the assets that we need to give us the desired net income that we need on an annual basis. Just like I said before on this, you can make money with zero assets. And some of you guys are doing that right now, but you're using 100% labor. Think if you have, I don't know, it's something that would be service, manual labor. Let's say that your job is cutting grass. You're going to do this old school. You're not going to have any sort of equipment. You're going to have a pair of scissors on this. Can you have a grass cutting business with no assets or just a pair of scissors? Yeah, but it's going to be all your time, your back, your knees, and it's going to be pretty darn miserable. Can you make money in, let's just keep it on the same, landscaping, grass cutting business? Could I make money in that same business without any of my labor? Yeah, I'm going to need a lot of assets because I'm going to need a lot of trucks. I'm going to need a lot of equipment. And again, I'm still need labor, but it's going to be someone else's labor. When you're going into retirement right now, you are exchanging your time for money. I'm going into my business. I'm working on my shop. I'm working on the counter. I'm working on cars. And in exchange for that time, I'm getting money back. When I retire, I want to spend time with my grandkids. I want to spend time traveling. I want to spend time doing nothing. I can't expect to give up my time and earn money I need my assets to work for me. And if I need assets to work for me, I need probably a lot of them. People's time is a lot more valuable than their assets, and people are willing to pay a lot more for your time than they are for $10,000 to sit in their account, bank, etc. What we need to do on this is we need to figure out what we need. We need to figure out what the end is. If we know what our expenses are, we now know what we need in form of profit. For profit, we're talking about sales, income from our investments. Again, this is not something that is going to work for you. There might be a couple of you this is pretty close, but these are just kind of rough numbers that work out well. And what I mean work out well, you'll see in a second. Let's face it, your shop management system is the single most important tool in your shop, period. You need NAPA TRACS because it integrates with all the major players, including NAPA ProLink, PartsTech, OE RepairLink, Epicor, Tire Connect, Mitchell 1 Pro Demand, and more. NAPA TRACS has leading-edge tools and technology that your shop needs right now. Unlike the other guys, we'll be there after your installation with the best training and support in the business. Your training includes a learning management system that is tailored to each role in your company. Simply put, TRACS was designed and built for shop owners just like you. It all starts when a local representative meets with you to learn about your business to help optimize your shop's workflow, efficiency, and profitability. For over 30 years, NAPA TRACS has made selecting the right shop management system easy by offering the best, most comprehensive SMS in the industry. After all, it's your shop, so it's your choice. Visit us on the web at napatracs.com. That's NAPATRACS.com. Shop owners, are you struggling to find and retain top-tier talent for your automotive shop? Introducing Promotive, on the web at gopromotive.com. With over 40 years of combined industry and recruiting experience, we're the ultimate staffing solution. We go beyond traditional agencies. Our team provides dedicated recruiters and account managers advising on processes, compensation, and benefits. We focus on placing technicians and service advisors with shops that offer the best culture, training, and long-term growth opportunities. Trust our experience to match the right talent to your shop. We carefully select shops that value employee excellence and provide an environment for success. Our dedicated team leads the entire process, leveraging our industry knowledge and expertise. Partner with Promotive and experience their advantage to help you build a high-performing team that drives your shop's growth. Visit gopromotive.com today and let us help find and keep the best talent in the industry. What you need to do is you need to figure out how much money you're going to be spending. Real quick on this one, I'll give you some advice. Figure out what you're going to be spending on retirement like the first 5 years. That is going to be the most amount of money that you're going to spend in retirement. And if it works for whatever that average that you spend is for the first 5 years, it's going to work for the rest of your life. Ignoring kind of extraordinary circumstances like health, your first 5 years of retirement is going to be your most expensive. You're most active, you're the most healthy, you have the most energy on this. I don't know. It's just take my word for it. Now, if you want to get a little bit more aggressive on this, let's say that you're spending $80,000 when you first retire. By the time that you are kind of, getting towards the end of your life, you're going to probably be spending a fraction of this. How much you need to retire is probably not what you need in the first 5 years. But if you can cover that number in the first 5 years, you know it's going to work for the rest. Don't know what I mean by that? Keep on listening to the rest of this. I think it'll make sense. I went down through this, right? And I'm 61-year-old shop owner here, and I'm looking to retire. Just like this podcast said, I'm going to go down, I'm going to come up with my expenses. My budget's pretty simple. I need about $20,000 for living. I don't have any debt, so this is just going to be for utilities, repairs, who knows. I like to travel, so I'm going to spend another $20,000 a year traveling, maybe to see my kids, maybe to see grandkids on this, maybe just to travel. Another $20,000 for fun. I like to go see football games, maybe I want to go skiing, golfing, whatever. But I don't want to live, in a poor house and not have any sort of fun. Another $20,000 for fun, which I'm up to $60,000. That's pretty much it. I don't have a whole lot that I want to do, but I know health is inevitable. And I do want a little bit of buffer for some other things on there. So I'm going to put another $20,000 in there that I'm going to save or maybe, spend on health. Again, this is probably a really terrible budget, or not probably, this is a really bad budget. Don't do a 2-minute job like you're taking notes for a podcast when you're actually doing this for yourself. Figure out what these expenses are, right? And figure out the range on this, because none of this stuff is going to be an exact figure. You're going to have to guess. But if you think your living expense is going to be 20 to 30 grand, use 30. Again, conservative. Worst case scenario, you die with money. Be careful on this stuff, but again, don't go so overboard on this that you're working until you're 90 years old, because you want to make sure that, you're going to carry the 3 and not forget the decimal point. What we're figuring out here is that if we have about $80,000 a year coming in, I'm going to balance the budget. That's, quarter's going to go to living, quarter to travel, quarter to fun, a quarter to save. $80,000 coming in, $80,000 going out. Remember, if you want to be done right now, you've had enough of this episode, maybe you have a little bit of, prior knowledge on this stuff and you want your answer, here it is. Take whatever you need on an annual basis and divide that by 0.08. 8% is what we're looking at here. So if you want $80,000 a year, how much in assets do I need to have? So if I want $80,000 a year in income from this assets, I'm going to divide that by 0.08, which gives us $1 million. I told you it was going to work out, right? There's a reason I use $80,000 because of the 8% return on investment. If I have $1 million in a savings account, it's going to give me $80,000 a year in just interest. Remember, I'm trying to die with 0, and if you use this number, it's going to be okay, but I almost guarantee you that you're going to be working too long. 8% is a number, and again, your number might be 6, your number might be 9, your number might be 10. This is a lot of subjective, a lot of, kind of opinions on this stuff. But essentially, 8% is a pretty reasonable number to say, I can take 8% off of any investment and probably expect that investment to stay the original amount. If I want to draw 10% off of an investment, I can. But if I'm expecting my investment to make 8% a year, I'm losing 2%. Like, let's say I want to take 10% out of this. After a year, that's going to be worth $1,080,000. I'm going to take $100,000 out. It's going to be down to $980,000. And then it goes up to whatever, another $98,000 next year. I take $100,000 out. Again, we're losing money. The ultimate principle, if you want to die with 0, is you have to draw out more than this thing is making. If you look at this, every single year that goes by, taking out 100, replenishing 80, taking out 100, replenishing 80, taking out 100, replenishing 80. And if you think if you have, $1 million, you're only burning $20,000 a year, you can do that for the next 50. But if you want to be conservative on this and say, I want to make sure I don't spend with that, die with 0. I want to make sure that I still have this money and leave it to my kids on this. 8% is generally a pretty good rule of thumb. If you have whatever you have in the bank, you can take 8% of that, and there's probably going to be investment that's going to get you right around there. And that should be pretty much guaranteed income for you. Is that going to be a checking account? No. Is that going to be one investment? No. That's kind of like a mixed portfolio of a bunch of different things on there. Your investment, your financial advisor might be better than mine or me, and he might get you 14%. I'd be leery on this guy. Generally, the argument on here, I use 8% because I've heard stuff from 6 to 10%. Obviously, if you're getting 10% return on it, you need to have less money to make the same amount. If you're only getting a 6% return, you're going to need more assets to have the same sort of income on an annual basis. I picked 8%. That's what I do on my own planning, my own finances. It's a middle of the road. It's a rule of thumb. And again, if you're hung up on 8% versus 7%, I think you're kind of losing the subjectiveness of this entire amount. If you use that number and you divide it by 8%, you're probably still having too much. Why? Because you're ignoring any other income that you have coming in when you retire. But I didn't set up any, 401k. I don't have any IRAs. Good news for you is there's something called Social Security. For me, my generation, there's a large argument we might or might not have it. We're not going down that. I think it's going to be around. It's not as underfunded as what people think on there. But the good news is all of you that are going to retire in the near future, there is still Social Security. Let's say you need $80,000 a year. Almost half of that's going to come from Social Security for most of you. Most people getting $3,500 a month. If you're married, probably going to get 2/3, maybe even 75% of that just in Social Security. Most married couples, you're probably looking at $50,000 to $60,000 a year in Social Security benefits. If we're looking at this right here, that's $60,000 alone just on Social Security. We haven't even touched your other investments. We haven't even touched your business. And maybe you plan to keep the real estate. That's another $50,000 in income right there. My client has enough money to retire right now. Why are they still working? Because this model is not too far off from what a lot of people that I see. There's probably either two reasons. One is that they want to, And number two is they probably don't know. The answer is much more commonly number two than it is number one. Most people do not think that they can retire when in actuality that they really can. I see that 10 times more than the opposite on this. I don't know if I've had very many clients that have got out early, think that they could have retired and found out that they couldn't and had to go back to work. I have had plenty of people that retired and died with millions of dollars in the bank. And I know for the last 5 to 10 years, they were pretty miserable running the business, doing whatever job that they did. If you're thinking, Hunt, I'm not going to run out of money, or Hunt, I am going to run out of money, there's a good chance you're probably wrong either way if you haven't done this exercise. When this client went down through this is me. This is Hunt, selling Hunt's Auto Repair at age 61 years old. What did I figure out when I went down and did this exercise? I figured out that I don't need to sell my business to retire. I always thought that my business was my retirement, but I figured out just in Social Security and the lease income coming in from this real estate, if I'm really sick of this, I can close the door, sell off the equipment, or just throw it away and just lease this to someone else. And depending on how many customers come in and annoy me today in my shop, I might do that today. So that's good information to know. Should they retire? That is your choice. Money doesn't buy happiness, but it does buy choices. And I will tell you that I have never seen a business owner run a business that they didn't want to and did not have to. However, I have seen a ton and still work with a ton that have to and definitely don't want to. So think about that. You might have heard this. What do most people get wrong? Again, this is not meant to give you specifics. This is meant to probably check out a new book. But again, also just kind of go down through and make sure that you're doing your research on this stuff. But what do most people screw up on this? Most people get this wrong because their retirement is two things: Social Security and your business. The reason of why that is so hard is because one of those is a guarantee and one of those is the farthest thing from a guarantee. And again, if you're selling your business and it's all of your retirement, then we're probably saying 3 to 4. We're probably saying that 60, 70% of your retirement is going to come on the sale of your business. Again, I get it. Social Security is not guaranteed. They're going broke, yada, yada, yada on this. But for all intents and purposes, Social Security is guaranteed. It's going to be there no matter who you piss off, no matter what political memes you put on the internet. Your business is the exact opposite. You know how quickly it can go out of line. You have an injury, you have a fire, you have someone, mess up a customer's car, injure someone on this. You could lose this stuff at any given second, even though it's not necessarily a high probability of this stuff. But just like any sort of investing, you want to diversify your options. Hey, maybe business goes south. Great, I have 401k. Hey, maybe business goes south. I have other alternative real estate. Having all of your eggs in one basket is the biggest area of concern because, again, Social Security is going to be there. It's not going to be enough to fund your complete retirement. And that means that you're saddling your entire horse onto your business. And again, that is okay as well if you have a saleable business and it's going to be worth enough for what you need to retire. The thing is, most people that hinge their retirement on those two things don't do it in an educated way. Your expenses are fine. Number two on this, and probably even bigger than number one on this, and a lot of times coupled with them, is you have too much debt. Case in point on this is, let's look at this example right here. What we figured out is that me, as a 61-year-old shop owner, could sell my business without even selling this because I only need $80,000 of income on an annual basis, and just Social Security and a rental income from my real estate is going to bring in more than that. Great, I can retire right now. I will show you how quickly this changes is if I had debt. I'm no longer going to make the $50,000 that I thought on the commercial real estate because I refinanced that a couple of years ago, bought a bass boat. So now $5,000 a month is going to go to my mortgage. So instead of having $50,000 of profit from that commercial real estate, I have zero. I went out and refinanced my house so I could put in a pool, a garage, and pay for my kid's wedding. Instead of having all of this money go to my fun and my travel, I have a mortgage payment that's $5,000 a month. Not only is my rental real estate income gone because that has a mortgage on it, so is my Social Security because every money that me and my wife are going to get from Social Security is going to go to have to pay for our house that we live in. Yeah, it's great. I have a piece of real estate and a piece of commercial real estate. But it is no more apparent than in retirement that if you don't own that, the bank owns it, then it is worthless to you. Just by having a mortgage on my primary residence and a mortgage on my commercial property, like a lot of you probably do, I realized that I could no longer retire without selling my business. And I would be pushed into a situation like many of you guys are, that, yeah, I absolutely need to sell my business and probably need to sell it for a premium if I'm able to pay off my debt, pay the taxes, and still have enough nest egg left over in order to draw off of that and be an investment vehicle. My last one on this one is you guys are trying to leave too much money for people that probably don't need this. And again, this is from the book, but this is a really cool idea because I know, and I didn't even know if I want to put this in an episode, but some of you guys are thinking this. When I saw Die with Zero, just like you, I was kind of thinking, that's kind of weird because I have 3 kids. I don't want to die with zero and, hopefully can leave something to my kids. Because like I've always thought, hey, that's the thing that you do. We're put on this earth, take care of the kids, want to be able to give back to them. Now, some of you might think, I'm not here to take care of my kids. I don't care. It's up to you. You do what you want with your money. The whole idea, though, is that most people inherit money when they no longer need money. I want to live to, 80 years old. My kids are going to be, in their 50s, 60 years old. They're going to be grown. Their kids are probably not going to be at home. Their kids might even already be in college or out of college. What are my kids going to do with money when they're 50 years old? One of the things that the book preaches about is you want to leave money to your kids. That's great. That's novel. And the author does as well. But instead of saying the kids are going to get whatever's left over, why don't you give it to them in a time where they really need it? Instead of watching your kids struggle, not being able to afford a house and saying, hey, you're going to get $1 million, in 20 years when I finally pass away on this, give it to your kids now. If that's really what you want to do, then make it part of your budget, make it part of something that you can, budget in there. And hey, maybe you want to give $20,000 a year to your kids. If it builds into the budget and the numbers work on this, then again, no reason to keep on working a miserable job just to have a nest egg for kids that might or might not even need it. Again, kind of a cool idea, something that you guys should look into. But ask these questions. Your situation is going to be different. You're going to have a variable that I'm not going to think about. And that's great. That's exactly what this is meant to do. I hope that you go down through this. I hope that you ask questions. I hope that you get confused. I hope that this comes back to you and makes you change your day-to-day behavior because that means that it's working. Maybe you go down through this and you've already figured out that the number that you've been shooting for is the number. Then cool. More power to you. I hope that it's the number that you're shooting for is actually less and that you're hopefully closer to retiring than you thought. But hey, you're never going to know unless you look at this stuff. I feel like overall financial topics, and this one specifically, people don't want to look at something that they don't understand, and people don't like to face uncomfortable truths. In this example, you probably have both. When in reality, I think that most people statistically are closer than they think. Either way, the answer is something that you need to know. Whether you like to know it or not is not really up to you. As always, please share with friends. If you have any questions, ideas for a future episode, shoot me an email at podcast@parmelas.com. Want to talk to me about accounting and tax services for your auto repair shop? Shoot me a text at 301-307-5413. And don't forget to check out the rest of the shows on the AftermarketRadioNetwork.com and on your favorite podcast listening app. Check out Craig and Speak Up, Matt diagnosing the aftermarket and everything else, Chris and his weekly blitz, and the Walkers talking about everything marketing for shop owners. So I just want to say thanks again for joining me on Business by the Numbers. Stay safe out there, and I will talk to you all next week.
You've been listening to Business by the Numbers with Hunt Demarest on the Aftermarket Radio Network. Follow Hunt on your favorite podcast listening app. Let him know what you'd like him to cover. His email is in the show notes. Hunt is all for advancing the aftermarket.